Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us for this Groupe Beneteau 2024 results presentation. I will start by, as an introduction on the key achievements of the year 2024 for the group. Nicolas will go further in detail regarding full year financial results, and then we'll talk about perspective, either short, either mid-term. What a year. We used to close our call by, we say what we do what we say, and more when we can. That's the way I concluded the last month's one, relative to sales. So you knew we overreached 1 billion euro sale. We also overreached our guidance regarding EBIT, 7.3%. We also managed to adapt our cost structure and adapt our stock level, our production plan level, to generate a positive free cash flow during the period. We finally managed to close the housing division deal, generating a significant contribution in your net income. We'll come back on it. So on each of these items, thanks to anticipation, thanks to cost structure adaptation, we managed to overreach each of our objectives for the years. I said by anticipation because since 1 year and a half now, since mid-23 results, we shared with you two things at that time. One, we're going to beat the historical record of the group in 23 in terms of sales, in terms of cash, in terms of results. But the market is shifting. So the dealer network, not the Groupe Beneteau, all the group dealer network, all the dealer networks are probably stocking too much in 23 and will destock in 24. Since then, when we talk together, we talk more about sell-out than sell-in. We talk more about what our dealer network sell to final customer than what we sell to them. The sell-out performance of the year, we commented last month together, is declining by 7%, which is the market trend. This is not the case from a volume standpoint. 16% sell-out decrease in volume, mainly on mono-hull selling, mainly on entry-level day boats, which are the segments which are the most impacted by inflation and interest rate increase. And thanks to the value-driven growth strategy that we shared with you during the last years, we've been able to compensate part of this volume trend from a top-line standpoint by 9%. This is a huge gap from 1 year to the next. 240 million euro stock increase in 23 to 110 million euro stock decrease at our dealer network in 24. But it was in line with our expectation. We said between 100 and 150, it's been 110. So we could actualize our production plan, our cost structure. We could rationalize our industrial footprint. We could integrate parts in Tunisia, in Poland. We could arrange our production schedule either through multi-year pluriannualization of working time, either through furlough or CIGO in Italy, and also could adapt the indirect cost structure to keep the group profitability, the boat division profitability in the tunnel between 6 and 12% we wanted to. A solid performance from a financial standpoint and also making significant progress on a sustainable roadmap. We have a program, Be Sustainable, or CSR, which is built on 3 pillars: ethical growth, engaged crew, preservation. Ethical growth is relative to the way we conduct our business. We already shared this information. 56% of our purchases today are Ecolabel, EcoVadis mainly. This is 15 points more than 1 year ago. We accelerated our parity, gender diversity programs, creating the Be Equal program. We are not enough from a women and men repartition, but we have been progressing by 5 points in 6 years. We have continued investing in training, either from a safety standpoint, either from a CSR standpoint. The climate fresque, la fresque du climat in France, has been trained for 800 of our employees today in 2 years. This is huge. This is 50% of our structure. Regarding CO2, regarding preserve ocean, I will comment 2 things. One, scope 2, meaning in our plants, we have reduced by 26% our CO2 emissions by reducing gas and reducing electricity consumption. This is not easy in a plant that is open to reduce at the same magnitude at the top line, but in terms of trend, it's a very significant step, especially in the US. We are structured by an organization dedicated to continuous improvement, which is certified for many years now, ISO 14001. That was the case in France, in Vendée, historically. That was the case in France, in Bordeaux, since last year. This was the case in France this year, in 24, also in Poland. So that 84% of our footprint today is ISO 40001 certified. Our CO2 emission intensity has reduced as well from 920 CO2 ton per million euro to 650. Also thanks to a lot of innovation that we launched. But regarding CSR approach, we really think that it will work only if it improves the customer experience. I will take 2 examples which are illustrated there. The foiling of a cat. It doesn't cost that much to add this foil. It reduces the drag by 15 to 20%. It reduces the consumption during this navigation. But more than that, it improves the stability inside the navigation. Either because it's a cat, either because it's a foil cat. That's the first concrete example that is becoming a standard progressively. That's the case for materials, like on this boat, the Oceanis 60, which is now produced with helium resin, meaning it's a fully recyclable boat. It's the case as well for the more complete concept boat, the island cruising concept, which has started in the opposite way. We started by the user experience of a charter experience, navigating in Croatia, 8 people. What's the average duration of the trip? What's the average speed? And then design the boat with the objective to reduce significantly the consumption by 50%. Let's look at a short video illustrating this concrete example.
What boaters really want today is to live outside and enjoy the scenery. They also want comfort, space, and silence. They want to get together and simply share the best of times. They want to go boating without constraint and in complete safety. They want to disconnect and forget it all. They want to make the most of every moment on the water. And above all, they want to do all this in an eco-conscious manner, by making the most of renewable energies to limit their impact on the environment. We did not leave this new concept in a box. We actually did it, and we are currently testing it in real conditions, because we're committed to inventing tomorrow's boating. More relevant, simpler, and more sustainable.
More space, less noise, less consumption. The doubt we had on it was, will it create the dream? So we didn't go for industrialization. We've gone for a concept boat, practice in Croatia, in BVI, show it in the boat show, Düsseldorf in Jan. And surprisingly, the wow was much more important than what we expected on a boat, seeing the platform, seeing the habitability. So we're going to launch the industrialization of this boat, reducing the consumption, and also as an answer to competitiveness. Last achievement, I say last because it was in the last weeks of the year, it's done. It took 2 years of discussion with Trigano, out of which 1.5 years with the antitrust authorities, but it's done since end of November. We sold the housing activity, 255 million euro, which could generate a capital gain in our net income by 38 million euro. We'll come back on it later on in the presentation. The Groupe Beneteau is now either solid, either focused on the boat business as a pure player, or the boat business development. That were the key achievements of 24. Nicolas, can we talk about the results themselves?
Thank you, Bruno, for sharing the business highlights. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As Bruno just mentioned, the main impact of Beneteau results, obviously, is the sale of the housing division. Since the closing happened in the last day of November, it's prevent us to share with you a financial statement before the application of IFRS 5, as we did the past 3 semesters. And consequently, we will share only after the application of the norm, showing the result of the 11 months of operation of the housing division and the consequence of the proceed of the disposal of the activity in the net income from discontinued operation. You saw it, 63 million, out of which 38 is coming from the capital gain on the transaction, based on, as Bruno said, 235 million transaction. Regarding the EBIT, as Bruno mentioned, we overachieved the guidance, more than 7%. We'll come back on the detailed bridge on this operation. We can also notice here a gap between the deterioration of the EBIT margin and the EBITDA margin, with a 29% decrease in sales. This is a consequence of the increase of the weight of depreciation on the revenues. Last item to be noticed here is the performance on H2 free cash flow. We commented in September for H1 result that we had the target to reduce inventory. We overachieved the target, which enabled us to overachieve our treasury target, but we will come back on that. Regarding revenues, Bruno mentioned the gap is threefold. First, obviously, the gap in inventory. We'll not come back on that. It's a 350 million gap between one year to another. Second is a market trend on monohull segment, on dayboat entry level, as you said, which is impacting also the net revenues. And last, interestingly, is the value-driven growth, which is, again, this year, bringing almost 10% growth with 100 million. You have an illustration here with the Prestige M9 and the M48, which is exposed here. Regarding operating margin, what enabled us to overachieve our business target, 7.3% ROC? First of them, as Bruno mentioned, is obviously an aggressive saving plan that we put in place early in 2024 to protect the profitability of the group. It's been furlough almost everywhere. It's been indirect cost reduction. It's been industrial initiative also. It represents a 25 million yearly saving and a 20 million gap between one year to another. Second is the remaining impact of the inflation balance. We commented that last year, the exact same time. We have a remaining gap of having anticipating the inflation on our selling price, and it's weighting 25 million year over year in 2024. The 7% has been overachieved, despite 2 major negative impacts. First one that we commented in our last press release on H1 result, the US brands on the dayboat markets performance, which is weighting a loss of 21 million euro. And second is the continuous investment on our ERP, which is going by the plan and weighting 15 million on the year. When we look at the net income, aside the impact of the disposal of the housing division, the main impact comes a share in income from associates, deterioration of the performance in charter company, in line with the market, unfortunately, and depreciation. The consequence is the depreciation of our securities for both charters company, Dream Yacht Charter and Naviare, and in the dayboat boat club, Your Boat Club, waiting for 13 million euro. Both business models are very fragile and very exposed to financing, interest rate, and inflation. Net income from interest on investment is improving by 1 million. We don't see that in the result because it's unable to offset the expense related to the non-unwinding of the dollar hedging. At the end, net income, 93 million. When we look, excluding the impact of the disposal of the housing activity, is 57 million, weighting 69 cents per share. Last comment on the result, the solid net cash position, 357 million, obviously a record for the group. 230 million coming from the housing divestment, including the operation of the first 11 months. I just want to highlight here obviously the working capital, which is the main driver of the first improvement in terms of inventory. As I said earlier, we improved 83 million the position in terms of inventory, which is the lowest point over the past 3 years. But at the end, the working capital need increased. And the reason is partly what we explained last year, the consequence of the 2023 record mark that we did, which impacted in 2024 tax, year-end rebates for dealer, year-end bonus, profit sharing, which have been paid in 2024. And then this is the stretch between a year where we increased 18% of revenues, with a year we decreased 29% of revenues, and this is a stretch in the variation of working capital on both payable and receivable. As a conclusion of this result presentation, the group is getting out of this difficult 2024 year stronger than ever, with a solid and sound financial position, which enable us to look at the future with a new growth plan that now Bruno will share with you as a perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicolas. Let's go straight. Let's talk about the market, sell-out-wise, market-wise. H1 will not go better than 24. The sailing monohull market is highly penalized by inflation and interest rates. Same thing for day boats. It starts to be the same for multi-hull now, especially since charter companies are struggling from the stop of subsidies in Greece, from the inflation, from the price discussion, I would say, on the chartering itself. And even the motor yachting, which was on a very positive dynamic, also on the big boats, start to switch from green to orange. Let's say it that way. A bit longer to sign a big deal is the way it's written for the big yacht maker. There are two positive signals inside this ecosystem. The first one is that boat shows are better this year than last year. During a boat show, we perform well and better than last year. We don't really move forward between boat shows, but during the boat show, the dreams still work. Second, the second-hand market is still resilient in terms of number of transactions, meaning the willingness to navigate is still there. Talking about our business, the retail business, we expect a retail activity 2025 slowing down by 5 to 10% in 2025 in a macroeconomical environment, geopolitical, economical, in Europe, in France, in Germany, in Italy, versus Russia, custom risk with US. I don't know what will be the output of that. What is a certitude is that it creates alia, it creates uncertainty. It pushes our dealers to say, okay, I will buy back a boat in stock a bit later on. So we think that the sell-out will be slowing down, but the sell-in will continue to be impacted during the first semester by that. What about Groupe Beneteau in this context? You said it, Nicolas. It has never been as strong as of today, financially speaking. And what does a strong group? It distributes dividend to its shareholders. It invests for organic growth. and it looks at external growth opportunities that will be relative, which will be positively contributive. This is about what will happen in the next 3 years. We will go in detail with you now on what we're going to do in terms of product development acceleration. We have launched 44 models during the last 3 years. We will launch 66 during the next 3, with 2 priorities. One, of course, continue the value-driven growth strategy that we shared with you, that we explained to you already. One step further, accelerating it, of course. Being cautious in the level of CapEx that we do, in line with the level of volume that we can expect on this market, the level of industrialization of big value for low volume markets. But we will also redynamize the volume market. Not only our position on the market, but also the market itself by accelerating the renewal of the volume offer, the entry level of our range, the one which are penalized today by inflation. This is what we're going to detail now. Accelerating the premiumization means 28 model launch in 3 years. On the 3 segments, the flagship Lagoon 82 will be shown in Cannes. Most of the investment is already done, but the presentation of the boat will be in Cannes this year. The M7 as well for Prestige will be shown in Cannes. The Twin Hull 32 as well will be shown in Cannes. On each segment, there is a value-driven growth strategy to generate revenues, growth, going one step further. In a reasonable condition, meaning with the right level of investment, with the right level of industrialization for each segment. But we have to do the same for the entry level of our range. One, because it's our DNA, it's our front commerce, it's our relationship, customer relationship, that we have to renew and which is today in competition with the second-hand market. And here again, that's true for each segment. The Lagoon 38 here is the new high runner of Lagoon for charter companies, is the post-inflation answer. We've shown it last week in Bordeaux in the Lagoon exclusive days. Same thing, of course, for American brands. Yes, we're going to grow them in value, but the inflation deposition, the price and the design to cost approach must be applied also on the day boating. Is on a reasonable capex level, of course. Same thing for Prestige, same thing for the motor yachting segment, meaning the boat we launched 3 years ago, before inflation, as the entry level of this segment, have been a bit deposition. So we have to have one step below, like this one, which has been sold in Düsseldorf for the Prestige 4.3. 38 launches will be done during the next 3 years. And of course, all of that will continue to embed innovation, and in particular, sustainable innovation. Either on each block of the life cycle assessment, either on energy management, either on recyclability, through naval architecture improvement, as we said, especially for the island cruising concept that will switch from concept to serial next year, in order to confirm, to execute, to implement our CO2 emission reduction trajectory, intensity reduction by 30% in 2030. So, what can we say about short term? Let's say that 2025 will be a contrasted year. We are sure, as we said 1 month ago, that S1 will be a tough one. We talked about European markets and the discussion that we have between Europe and US regarding tax. There is now a shutdown on the sailing catamaran market. That's a fact. All dealers will continue to destock their destocking program. The 40 million that they didn't do last year probably will do it quickly and go one step further until the end of the season. The promotions are increasing on the boat shows, that's clear. So we will not be able to renew positive inflation balance every year as we did during the last 3. The cost reduction measure mentioned by Nicolas will be maintained, of course. And we'll accelerate the rollout of our new ERP. It's better to launch it at a low point of the market that full speed. That's for S1. What can we say about S2? Just as a reminder, we are a seasonal activity. The next season starts in 5 months, so it's difficult to say a lot about the next season. The only factual thing we can say is that it will start with, at least for us, a normalized dealer stock level, meaning a realigned sell-in and sell-out from the next season. It will start with 20 new models shown in Cannes, which is the good moment to show innovation and to show new model. New model that will ramp up Portugal in a competitive way, that will ramp up Italy, the M8, the M7 from Prestige I was talking previously. That will gradually show the turnaround of our American brand. We kept our industrial footprint in the US. I think today it's strategic to keep it. But in terms of turnaround, it's a huge task force to make this market a profitable one for us. What can we say about 25? We expect to generate a top line level between 0.9 and 1 billion euro sales. I think that's the only thing we can say today in March for the year 25, out of which the next season will start in 5 months from now. But if we look a bit ahead, what do we expect from the 66 model that we will launch in the next 3 years versus the 44 during the last 3? About this 50% increase and acceleration of product development is to continue to grow in our value-driven segments and to accelerate the renewal of the volume 1. We will size the investment probably around 50% increase from a product investment standpoint, keeping the industrial one at the same speed than today, meaning feeding better the existing footprint. And that's why it was important to keep the rebound capacity in our cost structure today and growing the one which are more recent, such as Italy or Portugal. We'll finalize the ERP deployment in the years to come. And our ambition in this context is to bring back the group into the 1.5 billion euro sales level, into the double-digit profitability during this plan that we size at this time for 28. This is what we could share with you today. Of course, we'll look at external growth opportunity, being cautious, being ambitious, but without being in a speed, in a rush to make it happen. Of course, it has to be growth-oriented. But last thing to conclude, it's just when the market, the boating markets are slowing down that the solid one accelerates their product development, invest in product development, and of course get stronger out of it. That's not the first time the group will show it. That's not the first time the group will make it. And the group will make it again and get stronger out of this market slowdown. Thank you very much, and talk to you mid-May regarding Q1 sales. Thank you very much.